February 28th, 2021. That is when I began doing this, and what a ride it's been. So, I've been a trader for some time. Just to get this out of the way, if you didn't know what that is, because, I'm so into it and I know so much about it that I assume that when I say I trade, that people just know what I'm talking about. And then I realize that they really don't, and it's confusing. So, if you don't know what that is, and you're watching this video, then trader is someone who buys and sells securities. It can be stocks or ETFs or different funds, crypto, it can be anything. So that's what I do. And I'm a bit of a day trader and a swing trader. I do both. Sometimes I do day trades, a lot of times I do swing trades. If you didn't know, day trader, buy a security, sell it in the same day. Swing trader, buy a security and hold it for like days, weeks, or even months, and then long-term investor, hold it for like 10-20 years. Anyway, that's what I do. But I'm assuming if you clicked on the video, you already know what that is. So let's hop into the first 3 months. Well, actually, before then, a little backstory. I first was researching intensely about the stock market and trading and just investing in general and business in general about a year ago. Well, trading in general. A year ago, March of 2020 was the first time I traded with real money. It was only like $185, but I was doing it then as like practice, and I was learning more and more stuff. The first time I ever did anything involved with the stock market was actually in high school. I took like a business elective in high school, and he had us trade with fake money, and I did horribly. And I didn't even know what was going on. It seemed like a video game. I would come to know much more later on. And after a year of more intensely learning since March, then I decided it was time to go and do it for real with a large sum of money, which I started off with only $2,000. So I started off with $2,000, and this is how it went. So the first week, I'm only gonna run through the highlights, right? But I'll tell you the first week. The first week, I lost like $129. Yeah. But let me tell you the best parts and the worst parts, right? There was a time that I gained $1,000 in 2 days. That was pretty cool. There was a time where I lost $1,000 over the course of a month. And then there was the time where I gained $2,000 in 1 week. So that's kind of how it went. Some people think that, trading is like kind of like random, especially day trading, which I don't. I do both. I do swing and day trading, but especially day trading, like it's random or something. But I found a lot of the times it wasn't that random. I found myself looking at news articles a lot about what was happening and in the press, rather than just the charts and the lines and the graphs, which I learned that stuff too, but also the news. So by the end, right, I started off with 2,000, and by the end, just to round it, I went up to 4,400, which is an easy 2.2 times 2.2. 2,000 times 2.2. But here's the thing about it, right? When you trade, right, it's based off of, yeah, you see the dollar amount, but really I'm going off of percent, right? So the first time you go from 2,000 to 4,000 something, 4,400, right? For instance, if we're going by the 2.2, the next time you do it, because it's based on percent, you won't go to, you don't gain another 2,400. You would go up to like 9,600. And then the next time, the next 3 months, you would go up to like 21,000, and next you would go up to like even more than that. So this process is more exponential rather than linear. And by the way, going up, if I was to double it by 2.2 every 3 months for the next year, that would be more than the goal I set for myself. Like, I made up my own plan about how far I should get after doing this for about a year, and that would be above it. So that would be cool. Now let me tell you about the time I lost. This was the biggest loss I had. The biggest loss I had was losing $1,000 over the course of a month. And here's how it went. So I invested into this company, right? And I had done a little bit less due diligence than I usually had done with trades. So kind of had this coming from the beginning, but I invested into the company, right? And it went down and it wasn't recovering. It didn't recover for like a week. And I was like, oh, well, I'm starting to lose hope in this stock and I don't want to hold on to it for too long. So I was like, I'm just gonna get rid of it once it goes back up enough. And I was waiting for it to recover because I didn't expect it to go crazy high. I just expected it to come back to at least the point where I can exit the position. What happened was, it was in the morning at 9:30. The stock had gone up and it was in the positive. It was in the negative for like a whole week, and it was in the positive by like up like 1%. And I was going to exit the position at that time. But what happened was I was making toast. I was making breakfast. I had like jelly on my hands and stuff, and I was still making it, but I saw it on my phone because I was watching it like a hawk. But I saw it on my phone and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna exit the position when I, get back to my computer. So I finished up making my breakfast, and then I went to my computer, and by the time I got to my computer, it had gone down. And I was like, well, maybe it'll just go back up and I can do it again, but it never did. And it stayed down and it never recovered, actually until about a few days ago, but I'd already gotten rid of it by then. And I ended up letting go of it. And I held on to that position all month. That was a month long. In essence, I lost $1,000 because I was making breakfast. I can't even believe it. So you can imagine how mad I was because of breakfast. I was like, I'm never making breakfast at 9:30 a.m. again. The gains, like I said, it wasn't as random. It was like I was reading news articles. The time I gained $1,000 in 2 days, that was because I saw this company, right? And I was researching it, and I heard that it was going to partner with another company that was going to produce NFTs. And so that caused a spike in price because everyone was getting excited about that. And the second one, where I made $2,000 in 1 week, that was because there was a cryptocurrency that was going to be in the news. If you know about this, Dogecoin, it was going to be in the news on the SNL skit by Elon Musk, and that caused a spike in price. Of course, at the actual time of the skit, it tanked, but I exited my position, so, boss move. But anyway, that's how it went. So I'll say this, right? Doing this type of stuff, you really got to have a passion for it, because although you don't really have a boss, there's also no structure. So there wasn't anyone telling me you need to learn about this for this amount of time before you actually start to do it. I learned about it on my own, and I did it when I felt I was ready. And there was no one to say oh, you need a plan. Here's how you go about it when you do it. I had to come up with my own plan. And there was no one to say you should be at this point after this amount of time of doing this. I had to set my own goals and figure out my own way to achieve the goals that I set for myself. So there's, and I'll say this, right? This is going to sound bad, so don't take it the wrong way, but some people need to be told what to do. And that sounds really bad, but it happens. Some people, they won't do anything unless you tell them. So if you're not productive on your own, nothing's really going to happen. And speaking of productivity, what's my goal with this? This was 3 months of trading, right? But really it was 2, because for an entire month, I was trapped in a position, so I wasn't doing any other trades. And like I said, I'm not going by a 2.2 every 3 months. I'm actually going by a different scale that I made up, much more percentage basis. So now I know what you're thinking. How can you grow it so fast? You saw the numbers earlier about how it was more exponential. Well, it's only like that because I don't have a lot of responsibility. You see, the ultimate crutch to doing this is I live with my parent right now. And so I don't have rent or food expenses or kids. I don't have any living expenses, and I don't have anyone who depends on me. So with that, I don't need to take out a lot of money all the time. It frees up my portfolio to grow at a faster rate. And like I said, I made up a plan for myself, because the goal, right, or the specific goal for this right here is to be able to get to a point where the capital is high enough to where the trades that I make are able to sustain living, like getting an apartment somewhere or something. And I plan for me to be able to do that after a year of doing this. And I'm actually on track with my own plan that I made up. See, if I had responsibilities, then this process would be more linear, because I'd have to keep taking stuff out for all sorts of things. But because I don't, it's free to just grow and grow. And then by the end of the 12 months, I should have enough to where the trades that I make, could get me a place somewhere. Not that I would leave immediately, because I was talking to my mom and she was like,
Hamzah, you don't have to leave so early. You don't have to leave so fast.
But of course, trading, you can gain and also lose. And so every single trade that I do, I evaluate it and see what went wrong and what went right and what I did and how much of what I did actually contributed to the trade rather than it being, random. Now let's talk about risk, right? When I first started with the 2000, the reason I got caught up in the position for so long was because I was putting all of my capital into one trade, which I would consider I guess a YOLO trade. I don't know. I came up with my risk management based on living with my parent, and if I had lost it, then I could get it back. But because I've been trading for so long, felt like I was good enough. And hey, if I didn't take that risk, I wouldn't be where I am right now. In the future, right? But before, I was doing like all of my capital in one trade, but now I'm not gonna do that anymore, obviously. So, and the thing about it is, it's not like binary options or anything, right? If I put all my capital into one trade, I can still cut losses. So it's risky, but it's not as risky when you have your own risk tolerance. I had no risk tolerance when it came to the amount of capital that I used, but I had risk tolerance when it came to cutting losses, especially after I got trapped in a position for an entire month. So as I get more capital, then I'll use less and less capital per trade, so it should get less and less risky. But here's the thing about trading, right? This is only step one in a grand plan of steps that go way past 12 months that I made. The plan is a lifelong plan. Maybe it would take like 10 years to do every single thing that I don't know how long it would take. I haven't thought that far, but I've thought pretty far. I've thought years ahead, but not decades ahead. So the plan is to use the trading, right? As I trade, right, you can think of the trading as a tree, right? And you branch out into other things. So obviously one of the main things that I would do with gaining capital from trading is use a higher capital when trading so that I can get higher returns when I trade. But also I would diversify into other investments like dividend stocks, ETF, index funds, REITs, mutual funds. You probably know what all that stuff is anyway, and then there are some other business investments that I'm interested in that don't have anything to do with the stock market. That's the thing, right? The trading is I guess like the trunk of the tree, and then you branch off into like dividend stocks over here, ETFs over there, index funds over here. What happens is all of these things give back to you, or they slowly go up and you can sell them later on. Even stocks that you think they're not dividend stocks, but you believe in the company, so you invest for the long haul. Once you make all these I guess financial cushions, all these passive investments, in essence it kind of makes it hard for you to become poor again, because all of these things, even if you fail in whatever you're doing, all of these things will catch you. All of the investments that you made will come back to support you after you've invested in them. So the trading is a catalyst to expand into all these things, which will then give back, which when they give back, it increases my risk tolerance even more, because now even if I take losses, I can still get stuff from my other investments. And so that's the goal, right? 12 months plan that I made for myself is only step one, and then there's step 2, and then there's step 3, and then there's step 7 and then like I said, I plan for years ahead but not decades. And then when my passive investments are enough to cover basic expenses, then it's game over. So now I'm gonna go on a little tangent, little rant, but I'm gonna set a timestamp. So if you want to skip this part, because this is not really that important for what, I already went through the 3 months and my goals, so you can skip the rest. So there are some people in my life who don't really like the idea of me doing this whole, investing, entrepreneur, business path, right? Which I totally understand. They just want me to go to college and get a degree and then get a job in whatever degree that I obtained, which is cool. I don't mind. See, that's the thing, right? Here's the thing about me. What I do doesn't require college, and this is not only what I do, it's what I love to do. What I do, like, I don't have like a boss. or I'm not really employed by anyone. I don't have like interviews for jobs, or I don't have hours, set amount of hours somewhere. What I'm trying to say is I don't have like I don't have to show qualifications to someone. That's really it. Like, I don't have to show that I can do something to another person. And because of that, that's why I didn't get a job in the degree that I have. And that's why I didn't use my college degree for anything. I haven't used it for anything. But, and you know, and I don't really mind college, and I don't really mind having a boss. You know, some people say that like,
oh, if you have a boss, you're like a slave or something. Like,
man, there's nothing wrong with working or having a boss. It's fine, but it's just not what I'm into. Or it's not like I'm not into that. It's like what I do doesn't require that. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, if I wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer, obviously I'd have to go to college for that, and I would. Or if I did some job that you didn't need to go to college for, but you still needed a boss for, well, then I work under someone and I have a boss. Like, I don't really hate that stuff. I just love what I do. Because some people, they hate the idea of having a boss, and they hate going to college. And that's why they want to do all this investing stuff, because they hate the idea of doing the other thing. Whereas with me, I don't hate that stuff. I just love the other thing. And I have for a long time. I remember, right, when I was a kid, there was this show coming out. It was called Shark Tank. When I was a kid, I also really loved nature documentaries. I still do. I watched so many nature documentaries. Shout out to David Attenborough, if you know who that is, legendary narrator. So when I was a kid, I loved watching nature shows. I used to stay up at night when everyone else went to sleep, and I would just watch like Animal Planet or Discovery Channel or something. So when I heard on TV that there was a show coming out called Shark Tank, I was like, oh wow, I can't wait to see this, because I love nature, I love sharks. So I want to see it. And when I tuned in to the show, I just saw a bunch of old people in suits, and I was like,
what? Like, come on, man, where are the sharks?
But it turns out I fell in love with it. That was like my show. I loved hearing them talk about business and investing and how to do this and business deals and all this stuff, capital and percent, and like, I fell in love with it. And it was so, I was watching, I was like, oh my God, like, this is so cool. And that show came out in 2009, and I was there for the first episode watching it. And in 2009, I was 9 years old. So I've always loved this, even since I was young. But that brings me to the next question. You know, if I loved it so much, how come it took such a long time for me to actually do this? Well, that is because of high school and parents and life. So not to hate on high school or anything, but in high school, right, their main motto in basically any high school is, we want to prepare you to go to college, right? That's what they're doing. So when you show interest in something, then all of a sudden it's like, we need to get you into doing this quick, because there's a lot of things you could do beforehand before you even get to college that involve this thing. So do it. When I was in high school, I took a class on coding because I thought coding was interesting and it was cool. But it wasn't, I didn't fall in love with it like I did with investing, but I thought it was pretty cool. So I took a class on coding. What happened after you took a class on coding, right? They say, oh, you like coding? Well, great. Now take this next coding class next year and take these two other ones, and then take this AP one, because you need to get this AP credit so you can have it at college, so you can go to college, and then you can have this when you transfer to the 4-year, and then it's like, once you show interest in something, they lock you in, and that's the thing. Which, by the way, I took a business class as an elective in high school, and they didn't push me in that direction. After I just got sucked into cybersecurity. And I told people I was doing like coding and stuff, and they were like, oh, so that's what you're gonna do, that's what you're gonna go to college for. And that just became like my life path before I even knew it. But I never really liked it. So after I graduated high school, I went to college for 2 years and got a degree in the 2-year cybersecurity program. But I didn't go to a 4-year because I used like the FAFSA to go to school, which made it way cheaper. But I knew if I went to a 4-year, I would have to take out a loan. And I hated the idea of going into debt, so must have been the business mind. So I was like, I already don't like this. There's no way I'm going to go into debt for doing something that I don't like and owe people for like ever or many, many years. So I was like, I'm done. I didn't want to go to a 4-year. But I had the 2-year. After that, like I said, I didn't use my degrees for anything. After that, surprise, surprise, I fell into what I really loved and was passionate about, investing. So that's why it took so long for me to really do this, do it like I've always wanted to do it, seriously, because of that, you know. And I'll say this, right? The first part of my life, right, from a baby up until college, I was living for other people, parents, even though my mom supports me now. But you know, back then, she still wanted me to go to college and get a degree in something. I was living for parents, for other relatives, for guidance counselors, all my teachers, every other adults around me, and just people in general, right? That's the direction, that's the wave. Up until then, I had been living for them. But now for the next part of my life, I'm gonna live for me. And you know, I know that people in my life who don't really want me to do this, they only want what's best for me, right? They only want me to be okay. And I understand that. But at the same time, I also want myself to be okay. And I have my own plan to make myself okay. It's just not using their method. That's all it is. But in the end, we want the same thing. They want me to be okay. I want to be okay. We're kind of on the same page. But you know, that's the life I chose. That's my passion. But you know what else I'm really passionate about? Making YouTube videos. So like and subscribe. I got into YouTube right after I graduated high school. My first video was on, I think I graduated June 1st. My first videos were on June 17th. I uploaded 2 videos of me just playing this game I like. It was for like 60 seconds each. And there was no voice or face. It was just me playing that game. And actually, if there's another video on my channel, right? It was called Extreme Disappointment or something like that. If you watch that video, what I was talking about, what I was disappointed about was the video game. Because it got shut down and it was coming back. Then it got shut down again on the exact release date that it was supposed to come out. They just announced that it's not coming out and it's shutting down. And I was so disappointed because I loved that game growing up. So that's what that video was about. I didn't reveal it in the video, but that's what it was about. Also, it was about one other thing, but I won't mention that. Then my second video where I actually showed my face, it was a skit I did, and that was on June 27th. But that video is so old that it's not even on this channel. Like if you go down all the way to the beginning of this channel, that video where I think I was talking about, I was mimicking ads on YouTube that I've seen where guys like flaunt money and want you to click on their link and stuff like that. But that's not my first video I ever made. The first video I ever made, well, aside from those gaming ones, was June 27th, and was on a whole different channel that I deleted, and then I made a new channel. And then after a while, I rebranded the channel. Then I rebranded it again. Then I rebranded it again. Then now it's Hamzah the Lion. Yeah, it's nowhere on the internet anymore. It's just like on my computer. So, and I learned a lot about film and editing because I got really into making YouTube videos. Like I learned about cameras, lighting, green screens, audio, you know, equipment, Photoshop, Premiere Pro, editing, file extensions, conversions, different types of cables, hertz, FPS. I learned about, I built my own computer and I learned how to overclock it too. So it's just a lot of stuff, right? So now I have a bunch of information about film and editing, and then also a bunch of information about investing in business. So yep, it's just all rattling around. These are the two. And by the way, just to throw this out there, YouTube doesn't, you don't need a degree for YouTube. Like even my other passion, making YouTube videos, you don't need a degree to make YouTube videos. So like nothing I do requires that, and that's why I don't do it. But yeah, let me stop reminiscing and get back to the point. Alright, that is it. That's how the 3 months went. If you went right to this timestamp, a lot more months to come. I'm on track basically with my plan. It's looking pretty good, even with losses and even with me technically trading 2 months because I was stuck. I'll say one thing about this. I would say you gotta want this. Like you gotta be passionate about it, at least a little bit, because there are a lot of people that they don't like having a boss or going to college, and that's why they do stuff like this, or that's why they talk about investing or they talk about business. And it's not out of a real passion or drive to do this, it's really because you hate something else. And I don't know how far that mentality will take you, but I hope it takes you far if that's really what you like doing. Anyway, that's how it went for me. That's my plan for the future, and that's kind of what I do. And you know what else I do? Make YouTube videos. So like and subscribe. like and subscribe. And I'm gonna go. This was a long video, a lot to discuss. I can't wait to start editing it. Oh my gosh, man. Okay, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.